Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And I got to give you one coming straight out of one of our southern old Confederate states that has had a long history of problems and racial dynamics, rich versus poor, black versus white. And they can't seem to get out of the headlines. And two of them in particular are Alabama and Mississippi. And if you've seen one of my previous videos, there was a town near Jackson, Mississippi, where they found over 215 dead bodies in a unmarked grave behind a jail. And that's being highly investigated. And now, close to Jackson, Mississippi again, in Lexington, Mississippi, we have a police force that is violating citizens' rights under the 14th Amendment and the First Amendment. And so here it goes. Mississippi police unconstitutionally jailed people for unpaid fines, the Justice Department says. A Mississippi police department in one of the nation's poorest counties unconstitutionally jailed people for unpaid fines without first assessing whether they could afford to pay them, the U.S. Department of Justice said on Thursday. The announcement comes amid a Justice Department probe into alleged civil rights violations by police in Lexington, Mississippi. The ongoing investigation, which began in November, is focused on accusations of systemic police abuses in the majority black city of about 1,600 people, some 65 miles north of the capital of Jackson. In a letter addressed to Catherine Burnett Riley, the attorney for the city of Lexington, federal prosecutors said the Lexington Police Department imprisons people for outstanding fines without determining whether the person has the means to pay them, a practice that violates the 14th Amendment. Attorney Riley did not immediately respond to a phone message left Thursday. And so before I finish, let's say what the 14th Amendment is, which Lexington, this city, is violating. 14th Amendment says no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So you're seeing unequal justice being perpetrated against poor people, and they are locking them up and taking beds and occupying these individuals for nonviolent crimes, which these beds and these cells should be reserved for people that are committing violent crimes, because gun violence and murder and mayhem is at an all-time premium throughout our entire country. Gun violence is one of the top 5 pillars that is destroying our country each and every day. There's a fine line between life and death in today's time where the lines are getting blurred. So they said it's time to bring an end to a 2-tiered system of justice in our country in which a person's income determines whether they walk free or whether they go to jail, said Kristen Clark, the department's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. There is a great urgency underlying the issues we have uncovered in Mississippi, and we stand ready to work with officials to end these harmful practices. Prosecutors said the conduct of police in Lexington violates the Constitution's prohibition of wealth-based detention. It does so by requiring people who are arrested to pay outstanding fines before they can be released from jail, and by issuing and arresting people on warrants for outstanding fines that they already owe. 1/3 of Lexington's residents live below the poverty line. The burden of unjust fines and fees undermines the goals of rehabilitation and erodes the community's trust in the justice system, said Todd W.G., U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi. About 86% of Lexington's population is Black and has a poverty rate approaching 30%, almost 1/3. The area also has a storied place in civil rights history. In 1967, Holmes County residents elected Robert Clark, the first Black man to win a seat in the Mississippi legislature in the 20th century. The Civil Rights Division's sweeping investigation into the Lexington Police Department includes allegations of excessive force, discriminatory policing, and First Amendment violations. And what is the First Amendment? It guarantees freedoms concerning religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. The city's former police chief, Sam Dobbins, was fired after a civil rights organization obtained an audio recording of him using racial slurs and talking about how many people he had killed in the line of duty. Wow. This is Mississippi and its ugly past rearing its ugly head. Justice Department officials said they met with city leaders on Thursday. The local officials have pledged to work with the Justice Department to reform their procedures, prosecutors said. We know Mississippi burning. We know the historical perspective of Mississippi, whether you Black or white. The Department of Justice has been in and out of Mississippi since the Jim Crow days. And for them to have to go back and try to erase and eradicate this systematic form of separatism and segregation and oppression and incarcerating people that owe fines is ludicrous, especially in a time of the day where you have mental illness that's at an all-time high, the opioid crisis, and gun violence that is purging throughout all our major cities and minor cities throughout our country, while we're reserving a bed in a cell for people that have non-violent convictions or arrests. And you're seeing in other parts of the country, so Mississippi wants to be ultra-conservative and lock everybody up, and it sounds like especially people of color or poor people, because I think there's a dividing line in today's time. It's not about black and white. I think it's about rich and poor. But then you go to cities like Chicago. The state of Illinois has a safety act where they have a cashless bond system and people can do all kinds of egregious crimes and get out under their own recognizance. LA has a cashless bond system, same way. New York City has a very libertarian laws that they have enacted on their books. You had a guy that's up in New York that has committed shoplifting thefts over 101 times in a year and a half. Has been arrested and has been let out each and every time the same day. So these other major cities, California is being decimated with defunding the police and shoplifting and looting. New York is being decimated by it. Chicago with looting, shoplifting, and gun violence. So 3 of our major states, Illinois, New York, and California, are going just the opposite of Mississippi, where they're doing absolutely nothing. In California, you can steal up to $900 a day, and a security guard or the police won't even arrest you. California has turned into a third world country under Governor Newsom. But in Mississippi, they're taking the pendulum all the way to the ultra-conservative part, where if you get stopped for a traffic stop and you get a ticket and then you go to court and you can't pay the ticket, they're arresting you and putting you in jail. So if you have a job, a low-income job, you miss work, being incarcerated can get fired, you never get a chance to pay the fine. So we got to get the pendulum to stop swinging too far to the left or too far to the right. Mississippi needs to do a wake-up call. Alabama does. There's a lot of things going on in the South. And tell me what you think about this situation in Mississippi.